gentlemen, welcome back. Collaboration here, taking action with Chris Colombo.
Collaboration, not a conspiracy.
Not a conspiracy. Definitely not a conspiracy. Taking action with Chris Colombo and Crime and Entertainment. Now, you've been on my show once before.
Yes.
It went over very well.
Yes. You interview nicely.
Thank you. And if everybody can tell us watching this, I'm actually in your studio here.
It's not my studio. It's we're sitting at the pool table. Frank Sinatra gave my father, and this was his playroom. I modified it a little bit, but here we are.
Well, I got to tell you, you're a gentleman. You invited me here to your place. I mean, I certainly appreciate that. I think we're going to have a good show today.
You don't mind if I don't take an invitation to your place, do you?
No.
The last guy didn't work out there.
You're good on that. You know.
Although I do know how to behave myself around women.
No, well, that's
children.
Always a good thing.
And children, and the elderly, the handicapped, and the challenges. We're obligated to help as men, and not being sexist, and not that women are weaker or they are weaker, but a good man looks out.
Right. I think it's kind of fair to talk about here in the last couple of weeks, especially. You've had a few documentaries hit Netflix. With a lot of people on there talking about individuals such as John Gotti and other people. There's a lot of people that are saying they were involved in a lot of stuff. And you and I have some conversations to where we don't necessarily think everything's on the up and up with some of the stuff they're saying.
Patently untrue and falsehoods. Consistently. If there was a conspiracy law against lying, these people would be the greatest criminal mastermind of our time. What I don't like is they use real names and not real situations. And their basis of knowledge are imbeciles, bottom feeders, people looking for their 15 minutes in the sun. I've had some experiences here. My father spoke about them by one or two of them. I like to get into that.
Please.
Recently, this Sal Polisi, which means police in Italian, you know already. Okay. And I don't think he represents anything well. I think he took umbrage when I said the Sammy Gravano and people that do the things they do, polluting children's minds, were buffoons. And he referred to Joe Colombo as a buffoon. He'll be waiting for you in the afterlife if you say it to his face. A. B. Let's go into this now. What is your claim to fame? You poisoned children with drugs? You informed at a time when informing was unheard of. Okay? Now, I have a word, and I don't often curse, and I've searched my vernacular and my arsenal of words. And there's only one word I have to describe you. You're a blowjob. You got to remember, I knew Joe Brancato well. And you said you went to his house. Anybody knows Joe Brancato, he didn't have anybody come to his house. Now, if you knew him that well, tell me why he didn't have people come to his house. Because you're a blowjob, lying. These people are all dead. Nobody can verify it. What crew are you with? I listen to you. It's science fiction, number one. Number two, you'll testify on anybody to save your ass. You had nothing to do with John Gotti. You testified on him that day you were a Gambino guy. Then somewhere you're a Lucchese guy, a Colombo guy. And second of all, anybody with a nickname Crazy gave it to themselves. If they didn't, you couldn't call them that. That's number one. And Sally Ubats, come on, I'll tell you Ubats. Anytime you want to, let's get back to the story, and being that I'm sitting at a pool table. Blowjob. You entered the home dressed as a UPS guy. Okay. I don't know why. But anyway, you entered the home dressed as UPS alone, Mr. Ubats. You tell me how you contained a man with a woman standing there that didn't do anything while you were cutting his testicles off. I don't know about you. How many guys would take to cut your testicles off, Wade?
I would say at least 2 or 3. I'm gonna put up with as much fight as I can. I'm partial to both my testicles.
You never had Sally Ubat come in.
No, I did not.
No,
I've not had Sally.
We know that's a bullshit story. because it's going to take more than two. And with a knife, you only have one hand free. Unless you're an expert at that, that's why I'm calling you a blowjob. How did you get his pants unbuckled? How'd you take them off? How'd you get him on the pool table? Now, how did you control him? Being the tough guy that you are, you got his balls, his testicles in one hand, the knife in other, and he just said you were Sally Ubats, take my balls. You're a blowjob. Okay? Anybody that thinks, and this is what I try to people to do on my podcast with sports, think, evaluate, handicap, see what's wrong with that picture, see who you can listen to. I have a little bit of background with you. It's no secret that I coach kids at every level of football.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in the newspapers about you dealing drugs, and at that time, it was a bad charge. Now it's like normal. But anyway, but you were poisoning children with heroin and cocaine. And secondly, all the people you're mentioning hated that. And Joe Colombo hated that. So whatever crew you were in, and you don't even know what you're talking about, Junior Persico, he loved my father dearly, and we loved him. So whatever you have to say about that family, stick it with the rest of the nonsense you got. Okay, Vinny Alloy you want to talk about. I spent more time with Vinny Alloy than I've spent in this basement. Okay, moving forward, you talk about people that are dead that you're in jail with, and you probably didn't do much time because you're a stool pigeon, rat-hearted bastard. Okay? It's very segregated. People don't talk and interact, and especially Italians stay very close-knit in there. They eat together, they do everything together, and you are not normal. You're a retard. And I don't mean that towards the mentally challenged. I have great respect for them, and they are special. You are not special. You're your garden variety, lying, opportunist. There's not enough words I can't give for you. You can't even get dates right. Then you run there with that guy that's 3 chromosomes short of an idiot. What's his name? Looks like deers in the headlights when he goes to form a word. What's his name?
Martinez?
Oh, Martinez. He's an expert on things. The guy don't even know where they're standing. And you want to use point of reference the author. There's nothing historically correct. The people that were in it from Paramount, Peter Bart writes a column. He was the vice president of production. He said none of it happened. Bob Evans' wife, Allie McGraw, said none of it happened. Tommy Lucchese was in the movie. He died 3 years before the book was written. What else? Oh, Mickey Cohen. I thought I had a lot of pull, but getting Mickey Cohen out of jail would have been tough to go shoot it out ready.
Yeah.
He didn't get out to 74, I believe. Tommy Lucchese was dead. Lou Ferrigno was Luca Brazzi. I mean, I don't even know where that existed. My father didn't have a social club. It goes on and on and on and on and on. But that's what blowjobs do. They listen to other blowjobs. And you are, and I don't curse, and I excuse myself for any women and children listening, but if you're going to use that vernacular, it's not a curse, it's a description of Sal Polisi and Martinez and Sammy the Bull. Sammy the Bull wants to talk about my brothers. Where were they, he said? They were in jail doing their time like men, paying their debt to society. What are you mad? You weren't out to be able to rat on them and put them in jail for something they did or did not do, Sammy? So you're a blowjob too. Okay? Listen, either one of you think you're so tough. Okay? I sleep with my doors open. I can't have a gun because I'm a felon. Okay? Under the Louis, that's 15 years and a year running Wild Peach Bullet. I'm not inviting you, but if you happen to come in, you will lose. And I'll give it a handicap because your lives are worth 0. You've never done anything good for anybody. You never helped the kid. You don't respect women. You're blowjobs. And you're stool pigeon blowjobs. Because what do you believe in? And you people that watch these people, would you leave your kid with these people? I love my dog. I wouldn't leave him with them. I wouldn't leave a tarantula with them. These people, they threw away the baby at birth and kept the afterbirth. And you people out there with this internet are listening to these people. They're not the voice of reason. They're not anything but blowjobs. And what they do, like every cornered rat does, make up stories to save his own ass. Now, Kenny says, I looked out the MCC, I saw my kids. Listen, I've been in that spot more than once. Thank God I beat the case. The jury came back, and I've been harassed my whole life. My balls broken and try to be broken. But let me tell you something. The reason I am a man and I wouldn't do that is because my son can hold his head up high. Not that I take him out of a school, and not that I claim to be something. And then when the heat gets up, I collapse like a wimp, like a blowjob. And now you make yourselves expert on things. You poison children with drugs, and now you're poisoning their minds. You're blowjobs. And your kids should pay attention to it. Call them. If you see something I don't like, call me on it. I know that everything they say is patently untrue and false. Sammy, did he kill 19 people? Yeah, he's a serial killer. And there's a reason for that. We'll get into that at another time. But he should leave my fucking brother's names off his mouth. He throws roses at my father. He should. But still leave my brothers alone. They're not here to defend themselves, but I am here. And you're a blowjob. And if you think you're that much of a killer, come. And I don't even need a gun for a blowjob. You're not a Japa person, but you don't have balls. And Mr. Wach, try and cut mine off. Because you ain't got any. And no tough guy puts his hands on another man's testicles.
That was a very odd choice of descriptions of what he did to that guy.
It's a blowjob. The only way it might have happened is he was being a blowjob when he did it. He snuck the guy. He was just mad the guy had a pair of testicles and he didn't because he's Sal Polisi. He thinks his balls are in his head.
Every town's got a crazy something or other, don't they?
They give themselves that name. I challenge you. I'll play Russian roulette with you. Let's do it in the country, but you'll figure out the way to get me pinched. But I don't give a shit. Because you're blowjob. Your wives are worth nothing. You do nothing for nobody. You say nothing. You poison children. You kill people for money. It's dirty paper. Blowjobs. And that's my opinion. And then Martinez, listen, kid, go back to school. Do something. You're going to end up a blowjob too. Like deers in a headlight. Don't you know what they're talking about? You have an obligation as a journalist. Like John Albert. He tells the truth. This man tells the truth. We met by accident on a phone conversation. I liked what he had to say. He's a man. Defended his home, defended his family, and faced the fire. You people would have ratted on the dog that was there. What did the dogs for?
The dog stood up.
Dog stood up better than you. And I love dogs. I love animals. I got llamas, peacocks. I got every kind of I love animals. Like and they're not blowjobs. Use are blowjobs, and I don't curse. And anytime you get your balls strapped on, come and do something about it. My doors are open. It's not an invitation. But I guarantee you bring anything you want. I am not like you. And from the beginning of time, don't rewrite history. Let's tell it the way it is. That's the purpose of it. Joe Colombo was Jeffrey Dahmer. Point him as Jeffrey Dahmer. Not what you blowjobs do. Your crew. What is your crew? I read your trio twos. You're a blowjob. You don't know Joe Brancato. You didn't know Dom. You didn't know Vinny Alloy. You didn't know Ali Boy. You didn't know Junior. You didn't know anybody. I grew up there. My brother was here today. Did he know anybody hearing this? The only thing I knew was I was coaching up here in Orange County. Your son, very good football player, by the way. I'm sad he's got a blowjob for a father. Nice kid. Good ball player. No, he was the stud on the team, and we know his coaches. And it was in the papers. I felt bad for the kid. And he had the game of his life. And as a coach, he went over my team, congratulated me, great job. About the youth.
Yeah.
No, kid had a great game. Bull, nice kid. Must have been a mix-up in the hospital. So anyway, your wife might have had an affair there. Who could blame her? Who would procreate with a blowjob? Anyway, long story short, very nice kid, good ball player. Might have had a future, just thought it was a blowjob. So anyway, long story short, I would have a congratulate. I knew it was in the papers. I was going through the same thing with my brothers. So I said, the kid was down. And he was looking like this was his last game and whatever. I said, and this too shall pass. He says, you don't understand. He put his head down. I said, oh, shit. But caved. Got a rat. He's going to take his kids. They're going to go live somewhere. And they got to take responsibility for you being a blowjob. You bent over and took it. When the manhood came, you never did anything honorable. Keep honorable people's names off your lips because you're a blowjob. And you're sitting next to another blowjob, you're conning him. Play with his testicles. Don't play with mine because you're a blowjob.
I think one of the issues is everybody is fascinated.
Do you think I made my point?
No, I believe you made it very loud and clear.
Oh, right.
I think. What about the audience? So you think he made his point?
I think so.
Okay. That's what
Anthony? I would say so. Okay.
Yeah, they come through. I do think it got names like John Gotti. They just had this Netflix show. It was #1 for weeks. They're always going to want to draw that. It still gets views, even to this day, the way he was. Then they had another one come out, How to Be a Boss or something like that. People are still fascinated by this, but the problem is who they're getting to talk and document. Yeah. So, like you just said a minute ago, I think whether you're doing a documentary, a podcast, or whatever, it is up to the journalist and the interviewer or whatever to try to get as much truthful information as possible.
Unless they're blowjobs.
And especially when you got the backing of Netflix, you would think they might.
There is no other word. I looked. I don't like the curse, and I apologize to women and children. And, I'm sorry your families have a blowjob as a patriarch, but it's the truth. It is the truth. Now, historically, from time, and let me ask you a question. You watch these people, you send comments. Would you trust your kids with them? Would you trust your elderly parents with them? Would you trust them to take care of someone sick? Would you let them take care of your dog? These people are no good. There's something wrong with their chromosomes. The reason they're no good is they blew up their life. They made their choices. That's between them and God. But they took their sins and passed them on to other families. Sammy killed 19 people for money, nothing more, nothing less. He wasn't an honorable man. He wasn't a man of honor. And when you talk about honorable people, Sammy, don't make you honorable. You're only as good as your last deed or your last deal. And we have an obligation as human beings to have a code. What is yours? And blowjobs sitting with that other blowjob on that show. I don't want to keep pushing that, but that's what they are. See it for what it is. That's why I'm a handicapper. I see things other people don't see. These are things you should see. Now, I told the FBI tried to flip me prosecutors forever, and they went to some great lengths. 12 years tried to destroy my life. Am I complaining? No. Native Americans, who I hold some of their traditions in very high regard. Matter of fact, on this property, there's a Native American burial ground. A bit of water that built on it. This whole area, and all the names are for Native Americans. And nobody got the worst end of the government than them. They used to say you could judge a warrior by how strong his opponent was. You sneak people. You take advantage. You take advantage of position. I don't respect position. I respect men. Use of blowjobs. Okay? Come heads up with me. I'm not inviting you. But if you don't like what I say, and you're bots and you're a mass murderer, come get me. And I don't even need a gun. Because I'm a Knights of the Round Table guy. No knight under the eyes of God will fall in battle if true to himself and others. And all you know what to do. And from the history of time, let's go back to our Lord Jesus Christ. I say he was a gangster. Why did I say he was a gangster? He got persecuted on the first RICO. He got turned on by people within his circle.
Judas.
He got Judas. And I say if you have a choice whether to be Christ or Judas, you pick Christ every time. That's what I told the feds. I mean, historically, you people are Judas trying to rewrite the Bible. You're trying to rewrite history to make right your infirmity, your pollution of drugs and murdering innocent people is what you did. So I don't know who you murdered. I think all you do is murder the English language. You're an idiot. You can't even formulate a sentence on a podcast. Okay? And you lie. It's obvious. It's blatantly obvious. It's like a blowjob. Like the ostrich sticking his head in the sand, thinks nobody sees the big body. I know I got a big body. Let's continue forward. And he was crucified for his beliefs. And angels were hitmen, no doubt. When he was a businessman, he fed 3,000 and altruistic. He fed 3,000 people with a loaf of bread and a fish. Okay? And he had held his mother in high regard, drank wine, had big dinners, had regards and even respect for prostitutes.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fact, and pardoned thieves. So anywhere in there, use a Judas. Because Jesus preaches, he's in each one of us. That was the message to me. He's more forgiving than I am. I mean, I think he would say he was a blowjob too. I'd agree with that. He was a wise man.
He was a wise man.
Yeah, he was. So if there's a parable there, and stop polluting children. Stop polluting the minds of people. Tell them what you are. Sam, you don't miss the life. You miss killing people and taking their money. What the other blowjob, they don't. And leave my brother's names off your face, because anytime you want to be tough, Sammy, men are not made, they're born. Rats are not made, they're born. And you're a blowjob for opening your mouth about my brothers. They're dead. They can't defend themselves. What are you mad? Just got mad on them? What was your contribution to reality, Sally Ubats? What was your contribution? Just tell me so maybe I can figure it out. Joe Colombo built camps for children, took care of people, built hospitals, gave Italians back pride. What did you do? You lie about the people you're putting up there. I know it for a fact because I was there. And where I wasn't, my brother was. I told you, 11 years older than me. I'm 62, he's 73. Not one of these people in this area even knew he existed. My advice to you people that watch these podcasts, be careful, because you're dealing with the devil. It mix lies with vague truths to rewrite history. It'll affect other generations. The reason I do my podcast is from what I know, so kids don't get taken advantage and they learn how to bet. And I'm good at what I do. And if you're really good at what you do, you should have no problem trying to do it to me. I'm merely a bookmaker. Well, I want to sign off for this segment of blowjobs. You know, crawl under the rock or the nest wherever you came from. Keep honorable people's names off your mouth. You could never look anybody in the eyes of a real man because you didn't stand up. I don't know right or wrong. I don't care. But what I do is take these people, let's put them in Vietnam. Would you want to be in a battalion either two commanded?
No.
Okay. Let's go next scenario. Let's say 9/11 happens. Would you want to be trapped in a building with those two?
That wouldn't be my first choice. No, sir.
Okay, let's say a plane is going down. There's a little girl sitting next to you. There's only one mask. These guys are taken from her. Now, what I always do is put them in other scenarios. I wouldn't trust them with my kids, my money, anything. Elderly people, anybody where they could inherently be a predator. Okay? They want to justify and make a big deal out of being the lowest form of existence there is. And they try to justify it. You can't look in my eyes or talk about a man that was flawless in his principles. And you can watch it on the tapes telling kids at a young age predicted that pills were going to be problems in this country and wanted to stop it with education. So, listen, you and Adrian go and, play with yourselves. Sammy, keep my brothers off your mouth. You're a blowjob. Literally, and I know it. What do you think I don't know the stories?
I think you made your point loud and clear, my friend.
Yeah, well, I don't like children's minds being polluted. You know?
And I want to go back to what you said a second ago. You fought, they tried to put you away for how long did they fight? 11
Forever.
years? Forever. Now, what does that mean to Chris every morning when you get up and you look in that mirror?
Well, thank God for my judge who gave me a fair trial. She gave me time for whatever, but it comes with the territory. No complaints. I got a fair trial. The system worked. What does it mean? They tortured me for how many years? They put me on 5 years house arrest. I had to wait 3 years to get arrested. They had these hearings in organized crime task force. And then they arrested me. They held me in the MDC with no bail. And then they let me out. I'm very strict. I couldn't even step outside the door to have a cigarette. I take my daughter to the school's bus. I couldn't have a phone. I couldn't have a computer. I couldn't have communication. I couldn't have visitors other than... I thought the community was going to shun me. I became daddy daycare.
I had that same thing.
Yeah.
When I was
they
home on
lined
house
up
arrest.
like clowns, musicians here. They'd clean up and they'd come the next day.
That's amazing how it happens. They try to paint you as one thing in the courts, and then you're locked in on house arrest. And I had the same thing. I became daddy daycare too. Everybody knew I couldn't leave my house. Everybody sent their kids.
Yeah. Matter of fact, they appealed for if I got time that I could get on a house arrest because they liked the way I was raising their children. So anyway, there's a funny story behind that. So there's two funny stories. So right after I get out and I go to well, have lawyer meetings. So I had dinner at Rayo's 2 different times. I had it more than 2 times at the 2 stories. One is applicable. So it was right after 9/11 when they served the search warrants. I wasn't arrested yet. And I'm sitting at Rayo's and Pataki was eating there. And he comes to the table, he sits down, gives the people up with autographs. We talk. He's from Peekskill. I went to school in Poughkeepsie, relatively close. This is close to him. We chatted. And he was traveling with, the bulletproof SUVs because of 9/11. And he had the guys with the headsets and the watches and those little machine guns. And I look over and I says, "I know you. Yeah, just raided my house the other night." And I bought my meatballs from Rails to eat. So that's the way the cookie crumbles. The second story is when I did the TV show House Arrest. There's a little girl that was sick, black girl. Not that that matters, but so she was. If she was Italian, I would say it to her Irish. So she went to Make-A-Wish and had no way to contact her. She wanted to just talk to me before she died. I mean, I was not enthralled, but taken back that, And so I sent the limo for her. I spent the day with her. I never asked what happened to her, but she went to my tailor, Vito's Men's Shop in the Bronx, to ask to get in touch with me, and I went and did all that for her. And she said, "That's all I ever wanted to do. There's more to life, but I'm glad I could complete part of it." Second is, they reached out for me. It was a little kid named Thomas. He needed a heart transplant when he was a kid. He was like 16 or 17 at the time. I got the pictures, Joey's got them. And he wanted to meet John Cena, the wrestler,
Yeah, you can't see
me. Yeah, great. I like John Cena.
Yeah.
Who doesn't like John Cena? And The Miz,
Yeah, oh yeah.
Soup and a sandwich. So, a friend of mine had the connection in Connecticut, so we drive to, I forget what part of Connecticut.
Oh, Greenwich? Or,
not Greenwich. It wasn't not a good area, not a bad area, but the big Coliseum there. Wherever off we go. So, my wife says to me, so Joey's coming, this kid, and, he never developed because he needed a heart, so he looked like he was 10 years old. I don't know if he got a heart. He didn't get a heart. I hope he did. He was a great kid.
Stanford.
What?
Stanford, Connecticut.
Stanford.
Yeah.
About 3 hours from here.
Yeah.
So here we go. And my wife says to me, she worked in the kitchen at the school. She says, "There's a boy that really wants to go." I says, "Little boy." I says, "All right, let him come. He loves John Cena. Let him come. I get another ticket. Another tickets. I had a connection." So they meet all the rest of the kids with me. But on the way, I picked them up, and his mother's and the father's separate. Says, "My dad says he knows you. He wants to call you and thank you. He wants me to call. He goes, get out his own cell phone. He wants me to call and thank so he can thank you." So father knows me. What's his name? I said, "I don't remember him." No, he said he knows you good. He knows everything about you. So I call and he says, "Do you remember me?" He says, "No." I said, "I'm one of the agents that pinched you." He said, "Arrested." I said, "Pinched." I said, "No." I said, "No, you were a gentleman." He said, "No, you were a gentleman too." It's all right. I said, "You have no problem?" He said, "No, I know he's safe." He said. So off we go. So they had it all set up, John Cena, The Miz, all the wrestlers, and they actually let the kids in the ring, let them in with the chairs when they were wrestling. It was a big deal for the kids.
That's nice. You're a wrestling fan?
No, but the food ain't bad in Stanford. So anyway, you got to go gobble. Anyway. Oh, geez. The internet is good, and it's a fountain of knowledge. And if you use it in the right ways, when you're doing movies, it doesn't take a genius to figure out when someone died, what they were about, the way they looked. There's an obligation to be truthful for future generations. So I try to be as truthful as possible. And I try to look at the positives and see the people on my show. It's good things. This is what I want. I mean, is there bad out there? Yeah, absolutely. But you're turning the worst and the most unreliable of information, or a person you could trust to have an obligation of morality and a sense of fair play, which they do not do. They're the most prolific in any situation. I don't know about Sonny, but I think he's just a blowjob. Have a pair of balls. Just stop fondling them. And stop fantasizing about cutting them off. That's really sick.
Well, I think you made your point clear about a lot of the people that's been.
Who would
around
make
some
up
of
a
these
story about
documentaries.
cutting the guy's balls off?
I would not want to. I
Do you
don't.
believe that story? The way he explains it?
It's hard to fathom that that's
Yeah, give me a
possible with one
cigarette,
guy.
please, Joey.
It is hard to fathom that because, like you said, just look at it. Not even just some base what you say. You got to have one hand with. I'm
With the
assuming
knife.
a knife.
How you taking the clothes off? How you stabilizing them? How you holding his testicles? How you cutting them? And how you stabilizing them while you're holding them? No, I didn't want to do it. That's for blowjobs.
The only way you're even going to attempt to pull that off is if you knock the guy out and he was incapacitated, and then you were able to.
No,
do
that's not the way the story goes.
Right, and that's.
And how did you control the woman screaming? Because he was Sally Ubats? She just stood there and screamed, but didn't do nothing. Because she was just so fear because of his reputation. Blowjob. Go ahead, next.
No, that was kind of my point. I mean, it's when you stop and you look a little bit deeper into this thing, you start to figure out that it is hard to pull a lot of that off.
Hard?
Well,
maybe he was hoping it was hard. That might have excited him a little better. No disrespect to anybody, what you do in your bedroom, your business. What to go on the internet and brag about this. And you want to be the voice of knowledge, and you want to talk about men's men. Let's call you what you are. I can't even call you a convicted poisoner of children with heroin and cocaine. At the time, it was an atrocity at that era. It's become a plague now. I mean, basically, you were the roots of the drugs killing our children. And on top of it, you were a low-level one. So you looked your people in the eye that you were destroying. You got a kick out of it. Do you think that makes you a human being or tough?
Hypothetical.
Yeah.
If Netflix was to come to you to do a documentary on, I don't know, whatever, would you be open to that?
Listen, because everybody's doing it doesn't mean I should do it. Nobody wants to do it right. And the true story is more compelling and interesting than the fake story. Mm-hmm. If I ever chose to tell the true story about Joe Colombo, it's a better movie than The Godfather and more compelling. And many layers to that man. And not because he's my father. But he treated women like women. He treated men like men. He was a gentleman. And from the bum to the president, he didn't judge a person who was in their pocket. He judged what's here, and here. And if they didn't have it here, he went out to help them. If they didn't have it any which way, he tried. He was a man's man. And to hear a critique out of a whatever you are, I don't know. But if you're that crazy, you could take all that crazy shit, stick it in your ass. Man's a man because he's a man. He's strong in his beliefs. He loves his country. He loves his family. He takes responsibility and he does what he feels is right. He takes responsibility for the actions. That's a man. You people are listening to people that have sold their soul and they want to rewrite history. They want to say they were part of something. They were not part of anything. Would you, well, I listen to somebody's knowledge and take their word for something I say. It's what they say. Knowledge is important.
Mm-hmm.
It's important. These monks gave their lives. The Template Knights gave their lives for the Ark of the Covenant. The true Illuminati. People don't even know what they're talking about. I'm a historian. I get it right, or as close to perspective as I can. These people are showboating. And they're poisoning kids because their lives and what they did was wrong. And we all make mistakes, including me. I was the only guilty guy in jail. And had that jury come in and give me life, I'd do my life. Because I'm a man. And to trade my pains on other people's children, other people's families, and add to the stories, God knows she's embellish. And lie. These are liars. Okay? That's what you are. Accept it for what it is. And I can see if you take responsibility for what you've done and try to make it better. I chose to do an interview with Michael, and I know Michael my whole life. He really didn't testify on anybody or put anybody in jail. He actually swindled the government. I mean, the rest of the stuff he does, that's between him and God. I don't know. But he took responsibility for his actions, tried to turn his life around. He said he found God in jail. I didn't know God was lost. I mean, I was angry with him, but he showed himself to me a couple times. A few times I died. And when I died, I was laughing because I was going to a better place. You guys better hang on. Because let me tell you, the way you spoke, I won't want to meet Joe Colombo in the afterlife. Because he was a man here, there'll be a man there, and you'll be what you are. Low jobs. And he ain't looking for that.